Yeah, that is the world speaking. Hello, welcome back to Colonial Outcast, yada, yada, yada. I really don't have time for a formality as far as introduction. I'm just going to get right into it. October 1st, Israeli forces boarded several vessels of the Samud flotilla and detained several notable activists, along with around 500 activists total. Again, this flotilla was financed out of pocket by people who did not have a lot of money, as opposed to the Israeli Navy, which is completely financed by U.S. taxpayer money just to keep baby formula from getting to babies. October 2nd and 3rd, the Israeli Navy intercepted virtually all the flotilla's ships. The last one to get interdicted was a Marinette. And as all of you know, Greg Stoker's ship, the Ayala, was lost comms on around the first, and or I think it was the first or second, and we didn't know what happened. They've all been taken to Ashdod, so far as we know. There are some legal proceedings going on, which we will not have the details on because it's sensitive. And I'm just going to get right into introducing our guests. We have Savannah Sanchez, friend of mine, who is an active duty Marine Corps veteran who served as a military police officer in Cherry Point, North Carolina, and is a proud member of About Face, Veterans Against the War. About Face is an organization of post 9/11 veterans who are mobilizing the veteran community against U.S. wars, militarism, and imperialism, both at home and abroad. How's it going, Savannah? Thank you for coming on the camera again with me. The only time that you and I had been on camera, we never publicized it. So how you doing?
I'm doing well. Could be better with everything going on, but all things considering, doing okay. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Let's get right into some updates on what people are asking about the humanitarians who have been abducted by the IOF.
Yeah, so as you stated, like over the past month, the Global Samud Flotilla has brought together over 450 activists from across the world with the attempt to break the Israeli and U.S. blockade of the Gaza Strip. And these activists, which include American citizens and 5 U.S. military veterans, who I'm mainly here to talk about today, made it their mission to develop a humanitarian corridor within the Gaza Strip in order to bring much needed aid, food, and supplies to a population that is being intentionally starved, bombed, and tortured by the IOF and its American counterparts. I don't want to leave America out of this at all. The coalition of activists are made up of everyday people, organizers, doctors, artists, lawyers, veterans, seafarers, clergy, etc., who believe in human dignity and the power of nonviolent action. This was a nonviolent humanitarian action. The humanitarian mission is supposed to be protected under international law, as providing humanitarian aid to a starving population is not just morally correct, but is also legally sound. As of right now, the IOF is attempting to brand peaceful U.S. activists and also global activists who took part in this humanitarian mission as terrorists, attempting to undermine and distract from the broader issue of genocide and limited humanitarian operations that are being allowed into the Gaza Strip. This misuse of counterterrorism frameworks by the IDF against organizers is a form of repression that erodes international law and endangers Americans everywhere. What this really shows, though, is that Israel is really scared because we've succeeded in our movement of drawing international attention to the movement against genocide in Palestine. We see that with all of the grassroots organizations that have popped up all throughout Europe, Italy, with the dock workers striking today. We've done a good job of getting the international community aware of what's going on, but now we need to put action behind it. This flotilla is just one of effort of decades worth of Palestinian resistance and international solidarity. As many people who are watching this know, the blockade on Gaza is not new, and it didn't just develop within the past 2 years of this ongoing genocide. The blockade of Gaza has been up since 2007. So some flotillas have been happening in the past, and some have even made it to the shores of Gaza. Others have been intercepted, like the Global Samud Flotilla that we just saw a couple days ago. And others have been attacked, which resulted in the death of crew members. So that being said, U.S. veterans who have seen firsthand the devastating impact of U.S. foreign policy in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen, and so on, regardless of the administration in office, whether it was a Democrat or a Republican, understand that what we are witnessing in Palestine, in Gaza, the West Bank, and all of Occupied 48 is part of a larger initiative by the U.S. and Israel to further destabilize and conquer the region. The 5 veterans aboard the Oila Susan Zhu Jernstead from West Virginia, Zuleika Mo Morales Rivera from New York, Jessica Clothfelter from Illinois, Greg Stoker from Texas, Philip Tottenham of Ohio, understood that their struggles are interconnected with the Palestinian struggle under the same global systems of oppression. In Zhu's home state of West Virginia, American citizens are still living in their cars and are homeless after not receiving adequate aid after the hurricanes that rocked Appalachia. And most homeland of Puerto Rico, which is a U.S. occupied territory, the same systems of domination instilled upon native Puerto Ricans, not allowing them a say in elections, settler land grabs for tax evasion purposes, and military occupation mirrors Palestinian apartheid and occupation by the IOF. Our veterans understand and see clearly that money continuing to be sent to Israel in order to occupy, steal, and destroy Palestinian land and life comes at the direct cost of our people here within the United States. The fight for Palestine is a fight for all of humanity, and what we allow to happen to Palestinians, we allow to happen to us. Palestine is a litmus test of our time, and as veterans, we must understand our role and organize in order to not just end the genocide, but the occupation of all occupied Palestinian territories. Greg has touched on the imperial boomerang quite a lot on this show, so I won't get too much into it. But what we're seeing in LA and currently in Chicago and across a lot of other democratic cities is the imperial boomerang coming back home to us. The fight is now on our doorstep. And Palestine is a laboratory for weapons manufacturers and big tech to develop and hone tools of repression that are sold back to our local police departments and militaries in order to subjugate our brothers and sisters here in America and elsewhere. And if we continue to allow this to happen in Palestine, we're giving the green light for it to continue to happen all around the world, as we're seeing in the Congo, Sudan, Venezuela, with unprecedented attacks on supposed drug smugglers, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, the blockade on Cuba, and so many other oppressed communities. As veterans and as just citizens of the global world, it's our duty as people who at one point signed up to be used as tools of empire in order to defend capitalism and imperialism abroad to stand up now and demand and force our government to stop this genocide and occupation of all Palestinian territories by the Israeli Zionist state. Israel is America's military outpost in the Middle East, and I want to make it very clear. Israel's blockade and starvation of Palestinians is made possible by the full financial and military backing of the United States government, with U.S. taxpayers footing the bill. U.S. military veterans make up the majority of the GSF mercenaries who are running the food distribution sites within Gaza, and these distribution sites have been responsible for the deaths of hundreds of Palestinians thus far. This mission was never just about the boats alone and the flotilla alone. It was about building solidarity and growing a global struggle for the liberation of Palestine. Every interception by the Israeli forces shows the desperation of them and brings more people into our movement each time. Imprisonment of our volunteers reflects the same system of arbitrary detention Palestinians face daily. And I want to talk about 15-year-old Palestinian American from Florida, Mohammed Ibrahim, who was abducted by over 30 armed IOF soldiers from his family's home in the West Bank. In the dead of night, they stormed his home, abducted him, and they've had him in prison illegally for 6 months now. He had to spend his 16th birthday in an Israeli occupation prison. He is being systemically starved. He's lost already 30 pounds. And he has also contracted scabies due to the inhumane conditions of the prisons. And he's being denied medical attention. So with the mission not being just about the boats alone, it's about the greater and wider Palestinian struggle. Mohammed Ibrahim falls in that. When we're calling our representatives and we're calling we're bringing this attention about the flotilla to light, we need to also be centering Palestinians in Gaza, in the West Bank, and all of occupied 48. And Mohammed Ibrahim is a important person to really lift up. Unfortunately, when it comes to 2 years of a genocide happening, the call has always been pressure your congressional representatives, tell them not to send weapons to Israel, tell them that they shouldn't be taking AIPAC money, tell them to back a ceasefire. We've seen for 2 years that all of our initiatives to kind of push them one way hasn't really amounted to much, right? And it can seem a little defeating that like the ask is now also pressure your representatives to get them to talk about the veterans and the US activists who are aboard the flotillas that have been abducted by the IOF. But we're actually seeing it's starting to work right now. Zoo, one of her congressional representatives, as well as Mo's congressional representatives, has put out a statement. So it's showing of solidarity and showing that they want Israel to release these captives. So they can be moved. Unfortunately, what we're seeing is that Americans, especially US veterans, as elevating our veteran status, that we are given a little bit more attention than Palestinians have after 2 years of experiencing a genocide. But that's really what the US veteran delegation wanted to hone in on, was the fact that in America, veterans are given this like heightened status of respect because we served. They wanted to capitalize that and use that to push the message of Palestinian liberation and bring the global focus onto Israel and its occupation and the genocide that it's committing against Palestinians. So other ways that you could support the Palestinian struggle right now within, besides just contacting your local representatives, is also support the Block the Bombs campaign. This is currently the most pro-Palestine legislation to date and has more sponsors than any pro-Palestine legislation before. So the pressure is working. Also, if you're, you don't even have to be just a California resident, but you could sign on to this as well. The Oakland Arms Embargo campaign, which is being pushed by Bay Area Palestinian Youth Movement. It was found that the civilian airport, the Oakland International Airport, just this year alone has shipped over 260 different shipments of weapons to Israel. So getting involved in your local grassroots organizations, if you just look up on your Instagram, like different activist accounts, you can find different organizations. Find where you plug in. If you're a veteran and you have About Face and you have Veterans for Peace who are options for you, really, this isn't just a one-off instance of let me call my representatives and that's not going to be enough. We need to get organized and we need to actually come together and find sustainable ways to continue to put pressure on the people who are making these decisions and to gain more power as us on the supposed left or whatever you may find yourself on. Organizing with your people is going to be the key here, and nothing gets done alone. You need people. Yes, you could go to a couple protests by yourself and that might feel good for a little bit, but you might not see any change happening until you're actually working with your peers, you're working with your neighbors, you're working with other veterans, and you're finding out what skills you have and what skills they have and what you could teach one another, and then what that could apply to this broader movement for the liberation of Palestine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good to know that something's working. I would also encourage everybody that listen, if you want to organize your own ragtag squad of veterans, there's plenty of things you can do that you don't have to plug into anybody if you don't want to. I put out a video on Instagram earlier today that a good angle that I think that veterans should take who are listening to this is let's target the homeland veterans organizations that are right-leaning or who claim to have certain values and care about veterans. And there's uploaded on our website, we have just a quick page that has some contact info, just a list of a few concerned veterans for America. American Legion, the American Legion national headquarters is in Pennsylvania, for example, but a lot of them have chapters in local cities. So go to these organizations, go to their website, find out where they are, find out where they're located, show up with a squad of veterans, wear your uniform. Key point is don't show up in just jeans and a t-shirt, show up in OCPs, show up full battle rattle if you have to, full tactical gear if you have to, whatever works, whatever puts you front and center that you are a veteran. I know a lot of us have put away the old uniform. Don't do that, because right now you have to use whatever visual tools at your disposal. You got Veterans of Foreign Wars. You got Veterans for America First. That's a, you know, like a pro-Trump right-leaning organization. Association of the United States Army. You got AMVETS, which are American veterans. You got Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, Military Officers Association of America, Marine Corps League. Find any local veterans organization. I don't care what their affiliation is. The more right-wing, the more problematic, the better. Because what you're going to do is you're going to be putting a spotlight on them, and you're going to be asking, hey, do you care about veterans? Are you truly a patriot? Do you like the fact that our tax money is going to Israelis to kill unarmed civilians and just and starve kids and create a complete medieval siege with, instead of going to homeless veterans, instead of going to Americans who are currently suffering under an economic, you know, hellscape right now. So show up, get in their face, record them, put them on the spot. And the reason why that's important is because it's going to give them, it's going to put them to the test to see if they actually truly stand for these values. And who knows, maybe their members and the people who kind of idolize these organizations will look at them and be like, looks like you're a Fugazi. Looks like you're just a poser, just trying to get money and membership. So it's at the very least, we need to rip the mask off of organizations that claim to be for certain values so that we can finally just check them off the list and cross them out in the minds of Americans, so that the true ones will shine, the true ones who take action. That's About Face has been doing a great job in organizing certain actions. I wish they were bigger. I wish they were much bigger in membership. Same with Veterans for Peace. So how did you get involved in Veterans About Face? What motivated you?
The genocide in Palestine. It was the only veterans org that I saw taking up that cause. And prior to that, I had not been around any veterans organizations at all coming out of the military. I really shied away from veterans organizations. But witnessing the genocide in Palestine, I felt morally compelled to try to take action in whatever way I could. And seeing About Face and the work that they're doing, not just about Palestine, but like a right to refuse campaign. So active duty personnel can refuse immoral and unjust orders. I didn't see anybody taking up that kind of work. And I found that to be critical. And also just a community of people who, you know, veterans, especially like a lot of, like I was in a very niche community in the Marine Corps, you know, law enforcement. So most people I know from law enforcement in the Marine Corps kind of tended to go down a very right-leaning path. And that wasn't something I necessarily related to. And About Face kind of showed me an alternative community for veterans that was about like real community building and healing, especially when we're in such a huge suicide crisis of veterans. Even like I never saw combat, but people I knew who did not see combat still were killing themselves or having suicidal ideations or having these troubles, even outside of the military. And seeing that like this was a community that was really focused on healing us inside and healing who we are and getting over the like military indoctrination that we were put through so that we could be good community members, we could be productive, we could be helpful, and that like we wouldn't bring our mess with us when we came into the civilian world. You know, it really helped me heal, and it helped me like learn skills of just like even communication, like coming from the Marine Corps where it's a very like direct form of communication, like learning like, oh, like most people don't want to be talked to that way, you know, like I got to shut that off and be like, I got to come correct. Like About Face has helped me develop those skills. And then also to be able to take it in a way where like, just take it off the chin. Like it doesn't need to be like, I'm morally depraved because I'm speaking to people in like a way that I've been taught is an okay way to talk. They're helping me learn skills and just be better for my friends, for my family, for my community. And they take up the cause of Palestine, and they're against US imperialism. That's a fight that I think all of us here, especially like, I think a lot of veterans have this, like, they're not happy about the war in Afghanistan. They're not happy about the war in Iraq, but they're not able to pinpoint exactly what the root causes of it were. They know a lot of their friends died. They know they got hella PTSD or physical harm from it, but they're not able to place the correct blame on who actually made those decisions. Why were we sent there and things like that. And About Face has been a tool for me to be able to connect a lot of those dots. And yeah, I'm very grateful for About Face.
Yeah, same here. They've been the only ones locally to me that I feel like I can go to when I want to get involved, because I'm stuck in my own little bubble and my own little headspace, trying to figure out what I can do in my own capacity with my own creativity. But then sometimes it's good to just unplug from myself and be like, hey, what's About Face doing right now? So
yeah,
tomorrow is an action that I intend to go visit, thanks to you introducing me to Zach. So 1 o'clock, going to be doing something in LA just to get out and actually, hit the pavement. I definitely want to say something about suicide with veterans. Listen, if you're a veteran and you are struggling with PTSD and you think the only option out is suicide, understand that, look, I get sometimes you want to check out and you feel like this world has nothing for you, but understand that instead of doing that, before you make that move of committing suicide, first do some damage. Do some real hardcore damage to the system that made you that way. Get involved in a community or make your own. You can make up your own ragtag organization. Do some damage to the system that fucked you in the head. And then after a while, after you do that, then consider doing it. But before you commit suicide, do some damage and get back to the people who did that to you. That's what I have to say, because I've learned not to try and, talk people out of stuff like that. I'm just like this, like you want to escape. You want to escape the reality of the world. And I say, like, why don't you make the world the reality that you want it to before you make that move of suicide, because I understand, I know what that dark path looks like when you consider those thoughts. It's understandable. A lot of people have them, but first do some goddamn damage to the system that made you that way. Now, as far as the what's on a lot of people's mind right now is what can they do as far as actions besides writing local representatives? We're seeing a lot happen in Europe right now. They are really mobilizing quick, and they're showing all their cities like, who's the boss now? It's going to be we the people. Yeah. Problem with Americans, we don't mobilize like that. We don't mobilize that quick. We're in our comfort zone. So the question arises, like, what actions can people take that actually cause some type of damage to the current, the way that stops the train tracks from keep rolling? That's the question on everybody's mind. The other question is the status of the detainees in who have been illegally abducted. What's going to be their fate? I know that there's a lot of sensitive legal proceedings going on. Is there anything that you're allowed to speak on, that you're permitted to speak on right now?
Yes, their spirits are high. Attorneys have been able to meet with majority of the detainees. They are still detained and imprisoned. I think 4 participants of the 450 plus have been released so far. As far as our specific veterans, we don't know too much. But we have been seeing a lot of Zionist propaganda coming out of Ben Gvir's videos.
Let's look at one of those videos real quick. So this was yesterday. These are some of the detainees. Obviously, that's not all 500. Yeah. I was trying to find our boy in there somewhere. I couldn't see him, but this is Ben Gvir just comes in, yells at him. My Hebrew's a little rusty these days, but calling them a terrorist, saying that they didn't really bring in aid, that they weren't here to help. They were just here to help Hamas.
תומכי רוצחים, אגב, האוניות שלהם נמצאו קרחנה שלמה. הם לא באו באמת, לא למשט, לא לעזור, אלא הם באו בעד עזה, בעד הטרוריסטים. אלה טרוריסטים. הם תומכי טרור.
מה זה פה?
הספינה שלהם, המפכ"ל בדיוק מראה לי את זה, יחד עם מפקד מחוז דרום. מחפשים כאן סיוע הומניטרי.
So he's trying to say that there was no aid on these flotillas. They didn't have any aid whatsoever, which is why they made it a point to record videos of them with the aid. Now, if maybe they put some prop aid and then in the middle of the ocean they decided to have a boat come up and pick up those props and then take back to the shore or something. I don't know. But yeah, that's why they made all these precautions throughout the trip of recording themselves with the baby formula, with the medical supplies, with rice. And so I don't know who this audience is for. I don't know who he's trying to convince. Maybe it's just the last bastions of ignorance. Maybe you're old people who still watch Fox News, 80 years old, sitting in their chair. I don't know.
מה זה? זה סיוע הומניטרי? אני לא רואה פה שום דבר.
Hey, look at empty guy. Which we saw them do. They cut off the cameras for a reason once they boarded these vessels because they wanted to either dump the aid or confiscate it, give it to their settlers over in the West Bank. Who knows? But it's an information war that they are obviously losing. I think that these PR stunts are only reinforcing the anger and gaslighting that Americans, even Americans who aren't interested, it just enforces that gaslighting. So they're getting pissed. America's getting pissed at Israel big time.
Yeah, very much so. And this PR stunt that Ben-Gvir is doing is definitely like attempts at psychological warfare. We don't have too much information on the detainees, but then what we're seeing are Ben-Gvir's videos of him calling them terrorists. But if you heard it, clearly their spirits are high because they were chanting "Free Palestine" in that man's face. So I don't take that at all as a sign of us being weakened, of our people, our veterans being scared, demobilized, anything like that. I guarantee all of them are going to come out of this and be even more motivated to take up the cause even further. And we should be seeing this and, like you said, be upset and be mad that our people and international activists who are just trying to deliver humanitarian aid, even though they want to, like, everybody's Hamas compared to these guys, like they call everybody that. So
Miss Rachel, clear example.
Yeah, exactly. So like it's obvious attempts at holding on to the last grips that they have because they're scared. It showed, lessons to be learned from this flotilla is their like Israeli capabilities aren't as strong as maybe we thought. They can't really get all the boats as fast as they thought, especially the little sailboats. Like those seem to be able to maneuver past the Israeli ships a lot faster and better than the big ones, and they got further into Gazan waters than previous attempts. I think one ship hit Gaza's waters for the first time since 2010. So there's lessons to be learned from this flotilla that will just strengthen and what the next flotilla can build off, because this will continue until the siege on Gaza is broken. This will continue. People are not deterred. If anything, they're far more motivated and far more people are in this fight now, as we're seeing with Italian dock workers completely shutting down their economy. And what you're saying with Americans not being as mobilized, it's very true. A lot of our unions are not as radical as they could be. And that's something where like organizations have to come together. Coalition building has to happen. We need to find our places as individuals in these mass groups in order to come together and make actual movements happen. Because right now we don't have the power to just strike cohesively and shut down the economy. We're very comfortable, like you said. So we really need to come
a lot together. A lot of these unions are co-opted by Democrat organizations, which were fully on board with the Zionist agendas. So there was a beautiful video I did see where, I don't know, you probably saw it, a video of Palestinians. See, Palestinians aren't allowed to fish off the coast and the Israeli Navy will shoot anybody who attempts to fish, because I guess fish is a critical component of rockets that get shot into Israel or something like that. whatever excuse they're using.
The fish are Hamas.
The fish are Hamas, by the way, guys. They're digging tunnels under the water. But at when the Palestinians were on the shoreline waiting for the flotilla, they realized that there was an opportunity as the Israeli Navy was distracted in trying to corral the flotilla, and they were able to net a bunch of fish, which was desperately needed to feed however many people that fed. And
Yeah.
that is one more life. No doubt somebody's life was saved by eating some extra calories and extra protein that their body needed as it deteriorates from a famine. So this goes to show that even the smallest W's are huge W's in the eyes
Yeah.
of the world and in the eyes of humanity. We realize how fragile human life really is. Even the smallest detail can save human life, and the smallest human life is the rest of us. And I think that is something that will be touching a lot of people's hearts who are normally hardened to the troubles around the world, to other people that they don't know. And now, as far as the awakening that America is experiencing right now, which, not to say I told you so, but a year ago I was calling it, like, the right is eventually going to wake up if we keep reaching out and infecting it and contaminating the right with humanity driven ideologies. And okay, so we have this growing mob of angry Americans who don't like Israel anymore, on the right and the left. We see the right is not cohesive. We were under the impression that the right is this solid mass of fascists, but now we're realizing that no, they're very fragmented right now in their own little pockets. MAGA loyalists are getting smaller by the day. Liberalism is getting smaller by the day. So you see the far left is expanding and growing. The right conservatives are now questioning themselves and their place in the universe, having come to Jesus moments, no pun intended. And so what do we do with this soup of the working class that has different ideological, leanings? Well, I think my personal opinion is our next step is to now connect the dots, saying, hey, look, these law enforcement agencies, ICE, the spyware, the everyday invasions of our privacy, the things that normally Americans would just chuck over to conspiracy theory or paranoia, it's directly tied to Israel. So the question is, are we just going to lay down and take it? Or are we actually going to have direct actions? Like, for example, we know that Palantir has played a very sadistic role in targeting Palestinians, slaughtering kids, targeting families, using their personal data, and then sending a rocket down right on them because they were able to leak a video about what was happening in Gaza to the outside world. Well, Palantir is in your local neighborhood. Palantir has cameras up. Flock has cameras up. The law enforcement now has Celebrite, which is Israeli technology. Okay, well, we're not helpless here in the United States. The Palestinians in Gaza are very helpless. Like, they have very little power right now to fight back. We don't. We are more than capable of stopping this. So if you see a Flock camera, if you see a Palantir camera, or surveillance technology anywhere, guess what? It is your obligation as a patriot to not have that in your neighborhood anymore. And I got to speak in innuendos because you know what I mean by that. But you have every right to not have these things in your neighborhood. Wherever you see them, they are a foreign invasion. So,
and with Flock specifically, like we do as community members, we do have the power to ensure these cameras don't come in our neighborhoods. Like the Anti-Police Terror Project in Oakland and the community at Wide stopped OPD's initiative to have Flock cameras. It was a $1.1 million plan to integrate its public camera network with Flock Safety's ALPR systems and database. The communities came together and blocked this. The legislators listened. So when mass amounts of people come together and are organizing and show we don't want this, we do have the power to enact change. They're very hesitant, and they're very they have to be swayed in a lot of different ways, and there's a lot of different tactics that can be employed. Whatever like the viewer wants tactic to do, that's up to y'all. But like, there are ways to get initiatives that the community actually wants implemented, and then initiatives that the community doesn't want not to be implemented. We have the power. We need to understand, like, really our role, that we do have the power. When we come together, we can demand action, and we can be a thorn in their side at every step of the road to ensure that action is implemented. So yeah, I just wanted to uplift APTP in Oakland, and that it's possible. It is possible.
Yeah, political action on a local level, municipal actions, petitions, all of that. It's a multi-layered thing. You have the political side, and then you have the physical side. These are your people who, you know, for those of you who are just out in the streets and you see some of this stuff and you don't want it there, it's your American right to take it out. I'm not encouraging that because that would be terrible of me to encourage that. But I'm just saying, bad things happen to cameras every day.
Yeah,
they're not
they really do.
They're not people. They're not people. These things that are implemented in our neighborhood, they are not human beings, and they are monitored by the sickest of people. So do with that what you will. It's not hard. We rob, steal, vandalize each other all the time. Human beings do that all the time. How about we start doing that to what is actually preying upon us, in every which way.
Yep.
Also, I would say, listen, you don't have to, again, a lot of people, they don't know which organization to reach out because there's so many of them. I would encourage you to start your own, even if it's unofficial. Start your own squad of people, and use that home field advantage that you have wherever you're living, and take a stand in your own community saying it's not going to happen here, and be the bully on the block that bullies anybody who tries to infect your neighborhood with that. You're going to have to be the bully. We got to stop being on the defensive, and we have to start being aggressive. We got to stop being on the back foot. Also, when it comes to mobilization for Gaza, it takes everybody to do their research and find out which corporations are supporting this. What are the logistics behind supporting the genocide in Gaza? Find that out. Connect with people who are already doing that research, and figure out where you need to apply pressure, because Europe is doing it. Europe is doing their investigation. So this is going to be a multi-role thing. You got your nerds who are out there doing the research. Then you got your infantry. These are the people who are going to hit the streets and use that information to find out where that pressure needs to be applied. And again, do it in the name of patriotism, because that's what you got to do it as. This is America. You got to bring on these patriots. They got to eventually mobilize, as opposed to just saying, oh, well, yeah, I'm waking up to the fact that, Israel is not good for the United States. Like, what the fuck you got to do about it then?
Yeah.
You're waking. We can't just have people waking up. We need to now give them homework to do.
Yeah.
And so they can actually feel like they're involved. And I guarantee you, it's just a snowball effect from there.
Yeah.
We have some posturing right now in West Asia by the Trump administration on aggressive actions towards Iran. I'm sure About Face is going to be on top of that. And we have, of course, the beating of the war drums against Venezuela. Nobody wants this. The question is, what are we going to do about it? Well, eventually, we're going to have an episode that speaks directly to active duty on what they need to do. So do you have any advice for active duty military who is, maybe they just enlisted, maybe they've been in for a couple of years, and now they're asking themselves, do I really want to be part of this war machine that's going to start this cycle all over again? What can they do?
Can I grab my little thingy that I have right here really quick?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah,
okay.
Do whatever you need to.
Sorry. So, military members who are active duty and questioning their role and what they can do while active duty, we have a right to refuse campaign in About Face, where we're essentially fighting for a military member's right to refuse immoral and unjust orders. We also have a GI rights hotline that I can make sure Mark has for, like, in the bio of this video, where it's anonymous submissions. So you could submit your concerns. A GI rights attorney will contact you. And this is all anonymous. Your identity will be protected. That way your chain of command won't have any information about what your concerns are, or you even reaching out in general. This could provide you with your rights as active duty currently, and then also provide you with resources. And you also could join About Face as active duty. We're supporting active duty military members right now. Active duty military are facing a lot of crackdowns right now, even just speaking about Israel. There was a active duty soldier who was in uniform, made a TikTok criticizing Israel, and he was facing huge reprimands for it. So there is a lot of concern of safety just speaking out as active duty, but it's your moral obligation as somebody who's wearing the uniform, regardless. I was on Cherry Point, North Carolina, the entire enlistment that I had. I still feel like it's my moral duty, even though I didn't see combat. I didn't hold a weapon to anybody or anything like that. I still feel like it's my moral obligation as somebody who wore this uniform, who upheld American values, which tend to be destruction and imperialism, that I have to fight for people here in America and abroad when it's our tax dollars committing a genocide. And even if it wasn't, I would still speak out. Even if it wasn't American tax dollars, even if it wasn't American intelligence or American backing, it's still our moral obligation. So don't let fear of being reprimanded create this like moral and soul loss in you and guilt that you'll have to live with for years on end, even outside the military, because you did not speak up and do what is right now. There are resources for you. Veterans About Face and Veterans for Peace are two organizations that will openly greet you with open arms. And we'll make sure you have the links in the bio as well.
Thank you so much, Savannah. Thank you so much for carrying my weight through this episode. I am not in the right headspace past couple days.
That's rightfully so.
Yeah, I am in a very dark, violent space right now in my head, and I am trying to focus that in the right direction. So
Yeah.
you've done a great job, and that's why I want to reach out to y'all as soon as I could.
And we're here for you too, Mark. Like all of us in About Face, we're here for you too. And also keep in mind that like all of them, all the activists who went on this flotilla, they knew what was coming. They understood the risks, and they knew that they were most likely going to be put in Israeli detention. They prepared for it. They know what's coming. They're morally strong. Their morale is still high. As we saw in that video, they're still chanting "Free Palestine" in Ben Gvir's fucking face. So if they're still showing that kind of enthusiasm, us over here, we just need to take that anger and move it into action. And that's exactly what you're doing by creating this video. And that's what anybody who is feeling the same emotions that Mark and I are also feeling, take that anger and do something productive with it. Don't just punch down, punch left and right. Find out who the real cause of your anger is. Find those names. Find your local representatives, even at the most local level. Are they AIPAC funded? Are they supporting Israel? They have addresses. I know where my mayor lives. I know where my city council members live. We could do noise demos outside their house. Who's to say you can't do that? So take that anger and move it into action, but be productive with it and don't be reactionary. That's my biggest advice about it all.
Yes. Understand this is going to be a long-term fight. This is a marathon. This is something that's going to be a way of life. You know, the show isn't over until the system is brought to its knees for the people, that it serves the people, both the American people, Palestinians, all the people who've been oppressed around the world. This does not stop until the entire goal is completed. And this is just one more battle in the long string of battles ahead. So we have to pace ourselves and understand that we have to keep ourselves sustained. Absolutely. Well, thank you for your words. Thank you for your information. Thank you for your what About Face has been doing. And I hope to see a lot of your comrades tomorrow, hopefully on the ground. So with that said, I will leave this off with...
Can I add two things?
Yeah, go for it. You add whatever you want.
Okay, so as of like the most immediate, something that you can do as an individual is be aware of where your money is going. Get up with the BTS boycotting for Palestine. There's a lot of different initiatives like Google, Amazon, HP, boycott their products. You could go on the BTS website and find out all the different companies that are critical hits to boycott. That's where I feel is like where you could do the most damage is with your own money. Don't give your money to Israeli loyal companies. And also, if you're in the Bay Area tomorrow, there will be the Oakland arms embargo protest at 1 p.m. in Oakland at the ports. Please come out, support your local grassroots Palestinian organizers. There's a lot of great ones. They've been doing the work for a long time. You don't always need to recreate new systems. Sometimes they already have the system going and they could use your skills and you could help advance their struggle. But yeah, that's really all I have to add.
Yeah. Oh, you reminded me, when it comes to surveillance on colonialoutcast.com, go to the resource repository page, and there is a guide that I made for countering surveillance. It's called Gouging the Eyes of the Beast. It gives you some old school counter surveillance methods that were developed early on by the OSS, which was the precursors to the CIA during World War II, and the French Resistance. These are tried and true tactics. No matter how advanced the technology is, there are ways you can trick surveillance and trick their algorithm, but it's a community effort. It doesn't work if just one person does it. If we all start making it a practice, it really crosses the wires. So go check out that document. It's up on the website on the resource repository page, along with a page that has some of the contact info for these veterans organizations, not about face, but these right-leaning ones that you need to find the chapter of and go make some noise and put them on the spot and ask them, hey, what are you truly made of? Do you really care about veterans? Are you really about the American people? We'll find out. So yeah. I'll play this last video that Greg did real quick, and we'll close out on that. Thank you so much for coming on, Savannah. Here's
Thanks
the video.
for having me, Mark.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Here
it is. But we will still be in prison this weekend. So, we hope for like grassroots organizing, direct action, civil disobedience, stuff like that. Because the time of like social media posting and outrage, it's kind of over. We're like at the 2-year mark, or we will be in a week. So it's time to escalate. And so use us to do that.
Absolutely. Well, all power to the people and free Palestine.
Free Palestine.